All right. Thank you for your patience. We are ready to go. My name is Brett Caughran. I'm here with Fundamental Edge instructor Andrew Carr. We're going to give you basically a highly truncated walkthrough of what the Analyst Academy is. But really, we're here today to take any questions that you might have. And so we'll do a kind of a quick run through, 15-minute run through of the key structures, provisions of the Fundamental Edge Analyst Academy, and then we will open it up for any and all questions that you have. All right. So I will go ahead and share my screen. All right. So the wonderful innovation of Zoom has allowed me to build this business after 11 years in the trenches in New York. I moved to Arizona 7 years ago, thinking that my hedge fund career was done forever. Little did I know, a little thing called COVID brought Zoom into all of our lives. And 7 years later, 3 years later, 90% of what we do is virtual, recorded, self-paced. And so we'll get into the structures of the program. I sort of have been thinking about this simple stimulus for 15 years, this sort of question of, hey, go take a look at the stock and let me know what you think. The institutional approach to investing, to equity analysis. And this sort of simple question is really the foundation of everything we teach at Fundamental Edge. Our goal here is to give you a structured evaluation process for answering this question. When you're looking at an individual stock, how do you analyze that in an institutional grade way? The reality of the public equity business today is that it's mostly been a learn through osmosis apprenticeship business, which I sort of translate to figure it out on your own, kid. There are some existing training programs. And over the last 5 to 10 years, you've seen more of a rise of internal analyst academies at Point 72 and Balyasny and recently Citadel. What we've really done and built at Fundamental Edge is in our minds, the first standalone analyst academy for individuals who want to learn the fundamental bottoms-up approach to equity analysis. How do you do that? And so that's really what we do in our program. It's a 6-week, 60-hour course, open access with a 6-week cohort structure. This is not an introduction to investing course. If this is your first time picking a stock, I think there are some other approaches that are more effective. We really speak to the demands of the seat. 2/3 of our students are in an existing buy-side seat. The other 1/3 are, I would say, high potential candidates coming for the most part from high potential seats, investment banking, private equity, sell-side research. Breaking into a hedge fund seat, unless you have the resume to do it, or you're going into a really non-traditional smaller startup hedge fund, is an incredibly difficult experience. So in that sense, we really differentiate from a coding boot camp. Our role is not to get you the job necessarily, although we do what we can for those strong 1/3 candidates. The role really is to teach you how to do the job. What we've built is what we envision as, and sort of in our experience, can confirm would be on par of the quality of a typical internal hedge fund training program. And I guess I'm biased, but I would sort of argue it's better. The curriculum is a function of the in the trenches experience. I spent 13 years as an analyst, portfolio manager at five large hedge funds, and at the time it was frustrating to move around. Moving around to 5 funds in 13 years isn't necessarily a sign of top decile performance. I had some wonderful wins and some frustrating losses. The reality, however, is I learned a lot of what not to do, but I also got to see inside 5 different institutional funds, and I got to see the investment process, how they differ, but importantly, the similarities and the best practices that all of the funds sort of agreed on. And so that's a lot of what we've done in this course. Try to give you the hedge fund style approach, certainly anonymized approach to equity management. My buy side journey started in 2008 at Maverick Capital. I was green, very motivated, but I really didn't know what to do. And I always was a sort of super motivated learner. I kind of knew what I didn't know, and going through Mavericks training program was really inspiring for me. I loved it. It was sort of one of my favorite weeks ever at Maverick, just learning from these individuals who had been on the path. And fast forward a few years, I started at Maverick interviewing students who had gone through John Griffin's class at University of Virginia, and a light bulb went off for me that, hey, this is actually a teachable craft. And so ever since 2010, I sort of in the back of my head been thinking about teaching. My career pushed me there almost involuntarily, after having worked at five funds, generating some real meaningful lifetime P&L, managing billion-dollar plus portfolios, hired, training, managing, a dozen analysts, and made money 11 out of 13 years. Um, I had a solid, if not spectacular career, many highs, many lows, and permanently retired, or I guess permanently, for now, permanently retired from managing money at 36. And I love the industry. I'm a big fan of this job. It took me on great adventures and was stimulating intellectually and created financial freedom for my family. And it also at times dealt me debilitating stress and anxiety and put me in constant fight or flight mode. I had a very classic case of burnout, which drove some semi-serious health issues. And so a lot of the inspiration for Academy was, how can we moderate some of these challenges of the industry by tooling up investors in a more proactive way, um, so that we can manage some of these issues. And ultimately, the inspiration for me is sort of like things I wish I could tell my 23-year-old self, having walked the journey. Things I learned the easy way and things I learned the hard way. Ultimately, our standard is to deliver a training program that prepares analysts for the rigors of the buy side seat. How do we do that? It's a combination of really four elements. A self-paced core curriculum. We started doing live programs, and we learned very quickly that our students are very busy with many obligations. So we tried to basically shift the program around their demanding schedules. What we've done is we pre-recorded many of our core modules. I think this had the upside of the fact that I don't have to teach the valuation module 18 times a year or 18 times over a few years, because not much changes in our valuation module. 1,500 slides of self-paced curriculum consumed on your own time over 12 months with 12 months of access. You get access to templates, case studies, underlying Excel docs. We support this in a 6-week cohort structure with a live kickoff, live wrap, and live office hour sessions with select one-on-one coaching available primarily from Andrew Carr. This is all supplemented with a masterclass approach of guest speaker sessions from people who have been in the trenches and have expertise they're additive and complementary to our core expertise. And then lastly, we try to have some fun with it. Preferred access to Talent Hub placement services. We've done some alumni exclusive in-person and virtual events, to sort of bring people together. I'm joined by Paul Johnson, who's a adjunct professor at Columbia and Fordham, isn't here today, but also Andrew Carr, who I asked to introduce himself now.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for joining the info session. My name is Andrew Carr. I'm an analyst trainer here at Fundamental Edge. I was a career switcher into the hedge fund industry, and ultimately I spent about 7 years at a variety of different firms. I had kind of a complementary analyst upbringing to Brett's in that he began as an analyst at a single manager, which was Maverick, and I began my career at a multi-manager, which was Balyasny. So I worked there. I worked at a single manager backed by Blackstone. And then I joined Exodus Point, where up until about August of 2023, I was running a small sleeve of capital as part of a larger financials team. In addition to this day job, I was spending a lot of time training new and either people who were looking to get into the industry or people who were new to the industry, kind of showing the ropes in the way that a senior analyst might show a junior member of the team. And after accumulating hundreds of hours of experience in doing this and thinking about what I wanted to do next, that's when I reached out to Brett and joined the Fundamental Edge team.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. So what do we teach? We teach really everything you need to know by our estimation, to be a functioning junior investment analyst. We start with an explanation and frameworks for why stocks move up and down, walk through the thesis development approach, give frameworks for deep dive research and buy side modeling, of course, valuation, assessing expectations, earnings season, meeting management, short selling, industry coverage, idea generation, and we end with pitching and coverage, pitching and monitoring. In sort of in concert, we would argue, sort of based on me having myself having read almost every investing book, this is stuff that is very practitioner heavy, not theoretical, some theoretical, but highly practical. Things that happen day to day at your large institutional hedge funds, but aren't commonly taught, commonly practiced, but not commonly taught. In our self-paced core curriculum, we crack open each of these modules and we supplement each of these modules with downloadable supplementals, expert guest speakers, sometimes case studies, other events, recordings that we've done to try and add meat around each of these sections. We're big on frameworks, not that frameworks should be applied in every instance, but as a way to sort of think through a standard approach so that you can go adapt your approach, our approach to your approach. Things like the 9-step thesis development process. Why is this? I recall, and I tell the story in Academy of my first exercise at Maverick, where the firm asked me to take a look at TUI travel and go back to them and let me know what they thought. And I had no idea where to start, how to approach it, what to do, how to spend my time, what to read. And so we almost go overboard in being prescriptive so that we can give early career analysts some guidance on how to do things, how to at least get close to an institutional grade, institutional quality approach. These can be simple things like noting, hey, if you're doing a sort of up to speed reading stack, go check out the investor conference transcripts and decks. That's an important part of your initial reading stack and the standard baseline due diligence approach. So we give frameworks to encourage our analysts to understand if they're asked to go spend 3 weeks to get smart on a name, how they could do that. We'll supplement that with supplementary materials, model template library, downloadable models, case studies, a lot of things that I had and used as a public equity investor. In general, it's a very meaty program. If you add up the entire hours, about 95 hours of stuff with 30 hours of core curriculum, some supplemental videos, guest speaker sessions and supplemental readings. So it's meant to be a comprehensive exploration of what a fundamental equity analyst does. Schedule wise, through 5 weeks, 5 live sessions starting October 7th, wrapping up November 18th. We will bring together 6, 7, 8 hours of live content, live curriculum, live discussion in concert with the pre-recorded content. I would note, because this is probably our biggest FAQ, all of these sessions are recorded. If you're traveling at a conference in earnings season, they're recorded and uploaded and available for 12 months. You can submit questions in a Dropbox, question Dropbox beforehand. So if you can only go through curriculum on Sunday afternoons and want to drop a question based on the module, you're definitely definitely encouraged to do that. Andrew and I have, and Paul have a lived experience in a specific slice of the world, but there's a lot of things we don't know, and so in that sense, we brought in a couple dozen guest speakers, people like Dave Zion, who's a leading forensic accountant, and Francois Trehan on macro, and Howard Marks and Ricky Sandler and Michael Gatto on credit, and Matt Ober on alt data, and a number of individuals to really bring in the external perspective on things. Think about these as podcasts not meant to entertain, but to instruct. I love podcasts. Podcasts are very entertaining, and sometimes I'll listen to a podcast and be entertained for 60 minutes, but realize I haven't really taken away any practical toolkits. And so we'll really use these sessions to encourage our guest speakers to teach us something. Teach us how to conduct a call with an investor relations individual more effectively. Teach us how to identify fraud in our short selling approach. And so that's really what we've done, and that's what we've done in our supplementary guest speaker session. Recently, we've spent a lot of this energy in AI, and we've included some of the sessions from our AI work in our core program as well. We try to bring together some community with the group too, including invitations to the Wharton and ASU stock pitch competitions in the spring and fall, mixers in New York probably 3 or 4 times a year, and really some connectivity around the community on LinkedIn groups and other venues. Logistics wise, we host everything in our teachable learning management system with Zoom office hours, so it's pretty seamless and easy to address. You're right, and ultimately over these 95 hours, over six weeks to 12 months, really hoping, not necessarily teaching, not specifically not teaching you Brett or Andrew's way to invest, but guiding you through the creation of your own investment process, so that when you're on the desk and you're asked, hey, go take a look at this stock and let me know what you think, you have created your own exhaustive fundamental process. And sort of the foundational belief of the entire core, which is often harder to, retail driven markets like this, sometimes fundamental analysts start to question their approaches. But we strongly believe that fundamental institutional alpha is, there's really no shortcuts. It's a function of process. It's a function of judgment. And it's a function of building up the table stakes of modeling and reading primary docs and talking to management and ultimately distilling down all of that information into differentiated insights in public equities. There's no shortcut, which is why it's an exhaustive program. And even the programs, we sort of frame it as driver's ed. It's certainly not a key to alpha generation, but it's driver's education to functionally drive the car on the road. So if that resonates with you where you're at in your career, I think we run a very specific program for a very specific use case and for that very specific student. We've had incredibly good feedback, surveys, and ultimately results. It's definitely not how to day trade your way into wealth or swing trade 0-day options. But if that resonates with you, thank you I got to change this actually. OCTINFO10 is a 10% discount, and code, we could drop that in the chat as well. With that was all we really planned to cover today. With the remaining time, we're happy to take any questions that anyone has about the program, the job, anything specifically. You can either drop that in the chat or go ahead and raise your hand. It looks like we have is this a live testimonial from Ken Taylor? I just want to tell the prospective Analyst Academy students, hey, Ken, what's going on, man? That I did the Academy early this year, dramatically improved my analysis and performance. My current job, I'm not in an analyst seat, but work with other analysts and building my own research business, and my value to my employers, my own business is way better too. Awesome, man. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate you saying that. It was awesome having you in the group, and that's great to hear. We're not here to entertain. Our goal of the program is to have fun, of course, but to really leave students with something practical that drives ROI. I mean, the cost is not nominal by any means. The cost is real. The program allows us to build a business, but the time commitment is also arguably a bigger thing. To really spend 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 hours is no small investment of your time. So great. It's great, Ken, to hear that things have been helpful.
We got a hot one in the chat. Sounds like the office hours are geared toward module questions. Will there be an opportunity to receive feedback from cadre on a live thesis or thesis development? So I'll take first cut at this if you want. Generally, feedback on a thesis that you're working on, the way the kind of catcher's mitt that we have for that is the 30-minute coaching session with me that is included with Academy. I've coached a lot of people, done a lot of pitch review, and kind of help put bowling alley bumpers a little bit on people's research process, like tweak this, not that. The other thing is a lesson learned from earlier iterations of Analyst Academy is because of our growing cohort of people who may be enterprise clients, from time to time, the sharing of live or prospective ideas starts to get on the rumble strips of compliance a little bit. So for that reason, we can't have those live, and we there used to be a pitch contest within the program itself. But due to the mix shift in the business, now the best way to get those questions answered is in the offline coaching sessions. But certainly if you have an anonymous question, we have a mailbag for our office hours. So if you say, I'm looking at a company, how do you think about getting along companies that you know to be terminal zeros? Under what circumstance would you do that, or something like that? Those kinds of questions often generate a lot of lively discussion in our office hours.
Yeah, and we do, you know, uh, each student is granted one free 30-minute one-on-one session with Andrew. He also has capacity um, for more coaching as well too. I would argue a very reasonable rate. And so yeah, those would be instances where we would sort of steer you towards the one-on-one coaching.
Oh, this is amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. I had two questions. One, I really enjoyed Brett's Twitter threads on financial modeling, and I noticed that this was just one module for the course. As a result, I want to ask, how extensive is the modeling training in the academy? That's a that's a great softball question if I ever came across one. And then the second one is, I went through and really enjoyed the Fundamental Edge Investment Club program. Is the full academy a major expansion on the content taught there? Thank you. Number two, short answer, big yes. It's blown wide open. FEIC was meant to be kind of an on-ramp, but this Analyst Academy actually helps color in a lot of the areas that go unaddressed in Fundamental Edge Investment Club itself. Brett, I'll let you take the financial modeling one.
Yeah, I'd say generally the assumption of Analyst Academy is that students have some experience, because that's been our experience. The average Analyst Academy student is 28, has been in a post-graduation seat for 4 to 6 years, and a lot of that experience is in some sort of financial adjacent seat. So we don't want to sit here and walk you through the quick ratio or days payable, the cash conversion cycle for 45 minutes, because the vast majority of our students have had that curriculum at some point. And so we go straight into what it's like to work at a hedge fund. In that sense, there are some prerequisites, if you will. Less than 5% of our students are undergrads, so it's a very small piece. For that, we took a slice of our curriculum and we did some custom, more introductory curriculum, and we give that away free to investment clubs. But I think in aggregate, there's probably 6 to 8 hours of overlap from the core program out of 100 hours. So yeah, I'd say that program is a little bit more of a prereq. On the modeling, sort of similar dynamic. A lot of our students come in with very strong modeling credentials, so we didn't want to go build 15, 20 hours of modeling curriculum. Typically, we have steered people towards a Wall Street prep or training the street modeling course. And what we really do in our modeling module is we talk about the buy side adaptations to modeling. How a hedge fund analyst would build his or her model. We're going a bit deeper in that, and we're in the very early stages of building out our own modeling program. But as it relates to the Analyst Academy, I would sort of assume that it's about a 3-hour module or so. And I think one of the things that we haven't done, don't think we did it in FEIC, is you'll have access to a dozen or so model templates, so you get to see the actual models if you want to see how some of my models were built and adapt those to make those your own. Thanks for the question, Veer. Good to see that FEIC is driving some awareness of the Analyst Academy. What type of information and activity exists alumni um, in the alumni portal? We've done a couple things. We're kind of trying to get some more inspiration around it. In the past, we've done some in-person events. We did a Arizona spring training event. Um, I think we had 13 join the first year, and we had six join the second year. So we canceled that due to lack of participation. We've done things mostly virtual. I think it's just hard for people to travel. So we've done things virtually. We've tried a few different things. Um, I think what's worked the most was the NYC mixer. So we run pretty lively NYC mixers, given probably half of our people, 50% of our people are in the New York area. And the LinkedIn, maybe Andrew can speak to that. I think where we probably have the most flow is firms reaching out to us to hire specific Analyst Academy grads. And so I kind of stopped keeping track, but I think we've sort of,
We're at like 70 plus.
yeah, I think we've had
Actually, it
this,
was 70 plus through Talent Hub, and then there are some offline ones.
yeah. So I think we've had an assist in um, 75-ish placements. And that includes Academy grads and not. So we don't restrict that to Academy grads, although a number of employers explicitly look for Analyst Academy grads. They sort of, when they hire a grad, their sort of view is like they're pre-trained, they're ready to go. So that's I would say. What else? What are the other? What's the other sort of activity? I mean, we do other subtle things like we'll do a webinar and keep it open access for 2 weeks and then put it in the alumni only. Alumni discounts to programs like our AI program, a few other things. What did I miss on that, Andrew?
Yeah, I think I think that covers a lot of it. You'll see that from time to time we do these pretty big webinars, and those after a couple of weeks go into the alumni portal. But if you're looking to go through a specific topic or another, or sometimes we have guest speakers solely for our alumni, uh, I would just underscore again in the Talent Hub. That's a pretty big one because actually part of the whole existence of Fundamental Edge Analyst Academy is for this exact reason. PMs in an ideal world, most of them would love to train their analysts. Unfortunately, the time and kind of time on task, the focus required to train an analyst does not elbow its way to the front of the line in front of managing the portfolio and a million other considerations of the PM. Plus, there's constrained time to do front foot research, which is also the lifeblood of the portfolio. As a result, a lot of firms say, we would love to hire somebody who got trained somewhere else. And it's not because they want to fully outsource that to another fund. It's more of an affirmation that they themselves lack the bandwidth to do that. So when people see that they've gone through our program, it's kind of one of those things where people will have been exposed to a number of different practical frameworks. So irrespective of where you may work, what the mandate is, there's some training. So the alumni portal, information-wise, I would say it's the webinars, activity. There are certain things that we can blast only to our alumni that for varying reasons we can't blast to our public mailing list. Those would be some of the call outs. But also from kind of a business standpoint, we're building a few other things. So we anticipate that there's going to be an uptick in alumni things.
All right. Well, our emails are Brett at Fundament Edge and Andrew at Fundament Edge. You can also email info at Fundament Edge. The whole team will see that there. If you have any other questions, please reach out. DM me on Twitter. Send a smoke signal. Call me on the telephone. There's a lot of ways to reach us. If you have any other questions. Other than that, it looks like we had one buzzer beater. How does the analyst program compare to the hedge fund programs like Point 72 Academy in terms of length and content? We don't have full visibility into the Point 72 Academy. So it's hard to say that for sure. I think the one thing you get in the internal programs is you get the rotational opportunities. You get to actually go on the seats. So I think a large part of the internal academies is more the rotational learning, hands-on case studies. Where my sense is our program has more actual structured curriculum. There's more sort of deep dive slides, exploration, and so we have a pretty steady flow of students who are going into. I won't sort of name names, but a pretty steady flow of students who will come into our program as sort of a prerequisite or an on-ramp to the internal programs that are more experiential in nature by virtue of being live and in person. Um, so I'd say they're not exact replicas in a way because we can't get you rotation on a desk or the guided case studies is harder in a Zoom based program. So thanks for the question, Yufei.
There's one other distinction, which is employment at these firms is required in order to go through the training programs.
Indeed,
So
indeed.
to
Yeah,
to double, sorry.
I saw a stat that I think there were 15 on a podcast. Jamie said there was 15,000 applications for 50 seats, and I sort of wondered, like, what about the other 14,950? And um, so a lot of what we've tried to do is just democratize analysis and investing frameworks that previously you had to work at a hedge fund to really see articulated.
Yeah, also uh, anonymizing some of the details, it tends to be the case that getting exposure to structured investment frameworks early on allows a person to better stand out among that cohort of 15,000 people vying for 50 seats. And so it's kind of preparing people so that they can get the most out of those sorts of programs.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you for your time. If this resonates with where you're at in your career, we'd love to see you. Um, and if not, as always, we'll work on sharing as much as we deem reasonable on Twitter and webinars and other areas.
And their YouTube shorts.
YouTube Shorts. All right. Thank you so much, everyone.